The twin suns of Terminus Station stretched their dying light across the salvage yards, turning the rusted metal into rivers of copper and gold. In the heart of the refugee quarter, where the air reeked of recycled breath and broken dreams, she stood apart. Her blue skin glowed faintly beneath the flickering lights, soft curves setting her apart as alien, as other, as unwanted. The workers laughed as they passed, their taunts sharp as glass shards. She had heard it all before, the jokes about her size, the sneers at her appearance, the easy cruelty that came from people who had already lost too much. Yet amid the noise, one man didn't join in. A human mechanic, hands stained with grease and eyes weary from seeing too much pain, watched in silence. What he chose to do next would cost him everything he had built. And what she would soon learn was that salvation doesn't always arrive as a hero. It often comes in the quiet courage of someone who refuses to look away. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you never miss more incredible stories like this one. And while you're here, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We read every single message. The evening market thrummed with the restless pulse of the frontier. Holographic ads blinked above vendor stalls selling everything from synthetic protein to black market oxygen. The crowd flowed in restless waves, mostly humans, with a few aliens who had learned to shrink themselves small enough to survive. Kayla stood at the edge of it all, thick arms folded across her chest. Her blue skin shimmered under the cold artificial light, impossible to hide. She wore a salvage jacket that barely fit, fabric pulling tight around her broad shoulders and full hips. On Thessia, her body would have been celebrated. Here she was just the fat alien girl. "Look at that one. Probably eats her weight in rations," a dock worker called out. "Maybe she ate her whole planet," another laughed. Kayla's pointed ears flattened, but she didn't respond. 3 years on Terminus had taught her silence was safer. She clutched her data tablet, a record of everything she used to be. Master's degree in xenobiology, published papers, years of field work, glowing recommendations from professors now long dead. None of it mattered anymore. Every application denied, every door shut. "No man wants me," she whispered. Across the marketplace, Garrett Reeves wiped hydraulic fluid from his scarred hands and looked up. He was lean muscle and sharp edges, built from years of fixing what others broke. Short dark hair, burned forearms, eyes that had seen too much. He'd noticed her before, the blue woman who moved like a ghost through the crowds, flinching at every loud sound, pretending not to exist. Despite the constant mockery, Kayla carried herself with a strange kind of dignity, quiet, wounded but unbroken. Now a group of young men had surrounded her. Their voices rose in mock flirtation that was nothing but cruelty wrapped in laughter. "Hey, beautiful," one sneered. "What's your name?" "I bet she's strong, probably lift all of us." Another added, "Yeah, but can she even fit through a doorway?" Their laughter echoed through the metal corridor. Kayla tried to push past them, but they shifted, blocking her way. Her large amber eyes darted around, searching for escape. Across the marketplace, Garrett Reeves set down his tools. His boots struck the grated floor with steady, deliberate weight. The crowd sensed something in his stride and instinctively stepped aside. "Gentlemen," he said, voice calm but edged with steel, "you're blocking traffic." The ringleader, a thick-set man named Vance, grinned. "Didn't know you cared about traffic, Reeves." "I care about people walking without being harassed." He turned toward Kayla, up close. He could see the fine, crystalline patterns on her blue skin, like frost catching the light. Her eyes, intelligent, cautious, tired, met his. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked softly. Kayla blinked, stunned. No one had spoken to her with respect in years. Yes, thank you. Where are you headed?" "Refugee quarter. Building 7. I'm going that way. Mind if I walk with you?" Vance met Garrett's gaze for 3 long seconds, then shrugged and stepped aside. "Whatever, man." The noise of the market faded as they walked down a quieter corridor. For a while, neither spoke. "Thank you," Kayla said finally. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah," Garrett said. "I did." They passed a viewport showing the cold vastness of space. Kayla paused, staring into the void. "Do you know what they call us?" she said quietly. "Parasites, leeches, burdens. I survived a war, crossed half the galaxy, and after 3 years here, I've never felt more alone." Garrett's voice was quiet but steady. "You're not alone right now." She searched his face for sarcasm, for pity, found neither. "I'm Garrett," he said finally. Kayla Vorthus. Building 7. They reached the intersection where their paths would split. Kayla hesitated, reluctant for the moment to end. "Do you have dinner plans?" Garrett asked. "I've got food at my place. Nothing fancy, but you're welcome." Every instinct screamed caution, but something in his tone felt genuine, simple, kind. She nodded. "I'd like that." Neither of them noticed Dana Marsh watching from an upper walkway. Eyes narrowed, communicator already in hand, recording. Typing, sending. Garrett's apartment was small but orderly. Tools lined one wall, a makeshift kitchen tucked into a narrow alcove. The warm yellow light softened the harsh metal of the walls. Within 20 minutes they sat across from each other, steam rising from two simple plates. "Tell me about Thessia," Garrett said. Kayla's eyes softened with memory. Before the war? It was beautiful. Heavy gravity, thick atmosphere, skies the color of silver blue glass. Our cities were low and wide, built with care. I worked at the primary research platform, studying adaptive crops. It was everything to me. "You're a scientist," Garrett said quietly. "Was a scientist," she corrected. "Here I can't even get a job cleaning lab equipment." Kayla studied him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Nobody helps someone like me for free." Garrett set down his fork and exhaled slowly. 6 years ago, he began. I was a... Garrett leaned back, eyes distant. "I used to be an aerospace engineer," he said quietly. "On Earth, one of the best in my field." He hesitated, the words heavy. "Then I made a mistake. A small miscalculation in a fuel mixture ratio. During a test firing, everything went wrong. 2 people died. 5 were injured. The investigation cleared me, said it wasn't my fault. But I knew better. I should have caught it." He paused, his gaze distant. "So I ran. Spent 6 years here watching the station rot from the inside. Watching cruelty become normal. Doing nothing about it." He looked up at her. "Then I saw you in that marketplace, and something inside me snapped." Kayla met his eyes. "On Thessia, my body type is considered ideal," she said softly. "High gravity requires dense bones, strong muscles, higher energy reserves. What humans call excess." She gave a small, sad smile. "We call survival adaptation." Garrett studied her face. "You're beautiful here too," he said simply. "People are just too stupid to see it." Kayla blinked, caught off guard. Warmth flushed across her cheeks. His tone held no mockery, no pity, only sincerity. And it made her heart race. The hours slipped by easily after that, stories. Laughter, the quiet joy of being seen. Eventually she glanced at the chrono display and sighed. "I should go." "I'll walk you back," Garrett said, standing. When they reached Building 7, Kayla turned to him, reluctant to end the night. "This was the best evening I've had since I arrived here." Garrett smiled faintly. "Come by my workshop tomorrow. I take my break around noon." "I'd like that," she said softly. Neither of them noticed the shadowed figure on the upper deck. Dana Marsh, smiling coldly as she sent the last of her encrypted messages. The next morning, Garrett's communicator buzzed sharply. "Report to administrator's office. 0900 hours, mandatory." He arrived to find not just Thomas Marsh, the station's administrator, but also Dana and Vance, his nose bandaged, standing beside 2 security officers. "Garrett," Marsh said without offering a seat. "We have a problem." Garrett crossed his arms. "Get to the point." Dana's lips curled. "We understand you've been spending time with the refugee alien." "Kayla?" Garrett said flatly. "Her name is Kayla, and yes, I had dinner with her." "Is that illegal now?" "Of course not," Marsh replied smoothly. "But we must maintain boundaries. Refugees are temporary residents. They're not meant to integrate." Garrett's jaw tightened. "And who decided that, you?" Marsh clasped his hands behind his back. "We have limited resources, Garrett. Every ration, every job given to a refugee means one less for a permanent resident. Kayla has degrees, expertise this station is wasting," Garrett shot back. "Maybe the problem isn't resources. Maybe it's prejudice." One of the security officers stepped forward. "You will publicly distance yourself from the alien immediately. Do this, and we'll overlook the assault charge." Garrett's voice went cold. "And if I don't?" "Then your business license is revoked," Marsh said. "You'll be barred from every mechanic facility on Terminus, blacklisted, finished." Garrett's mind raced, 6 years of rebuilding his life gone. But then he remembered Kayla's voice that night. soft and broken. No man wants me. He straightened. No. Marsh blinked. Excuse me? Garrett's voice was steady now. No. I won't distance myself from Kayla. I won't feed your bigotry. And I won't be threatened into abandoning someone who finally made me remember what being
human feels like.
Dana's voice dripped with venom. You're throwing away everything. For an alien. Dana stared at Garrett in disbelief. You're throwing away everything. For an alien? Garrett met her eyes steadily. No, he said. I'm choosing to be better than the man I used to be. I'm choosing to stand up, instead of running away again. So do whatever you have to do. Marsh's voice turned cold. Then you have 24 hours to vacate your workshop. Your license is revoked. Garrett found Kayla later that day at the market. Her face lit up when she saw him, then dimmed as she caught his expression. What happened? She asked softly. I just got fired, he said. License revoked. They gave me 24 hours to clear out. Kayla's heart sank. No, this is because of me. No, Garrett said firmly. It's because Marsh is a bigot. They wanted me to publicly denounce you. I refused. Her eyes shimmered with tears. Why would you sacrifice everything for me? Because you're brilliant, he said. Because you're kind even after everything you've endured. And because you deserve better. And maybe, his voice softened, maybe because I'm tired of being alone too. She looked up, blinking through tears. What will you do now? I've got some savings, he said. What if we work together? Your expertise in atmospheric science, my mechanical skills. There's gotta be work out there for both of us. Together, if you want that. Kayla's voice trembled. Yes, she whispered. I want that more than anything. They spent the afternoon moving Garrett's equipment out of the workshop. Kayla insisted on helping. If we're partners, she said, we start now. By evening, they had salvaged the essentials. Exhausted but hopeful, they returned to Garrett's apartment. As they approached, Kayla frowned. The door hung slightly open. Did you leave this unlocked? She asked. Garrett's voice hardened. No, stay behind me. Inside chaos. Tool benches overturned, books scattered. The holoframe of his parents shattered on the floor, every valuable tool gone, everything broken or stolen. Who would do this? Kayla whispered, then froze as a voice answered from behind. Actually, the voice drawled, that would be me. Vance stood in the corridor, flanked by 3 grinning men. Heard you got evicted, Reeves. Figured you wouldn't be needing all this junk anymore. Garrett's fists clenched. Get out, or what? You gonna call security? Vance mocked. You touch me and you'll be in detention before the hour's over. Kayla stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. You destroyed his home. His life. His choice, Vance sneered, eyes sweeping over her with disgust. All he had to do was stop hanging around aliens. Kayla straightened, her voice ringing through the corridor. We matter more than you'll ever understand. We create, we build, we endure. And you destroy. You mock anyone different. You can take what we own, make us homeless, but you can't make us worthless. That's the difference. We know our value. You only know how to tear others down. Vance's smirk faltered, rage replacing it. He stepped forward, but Garrett moved between them. Leave, Garrett said coldly. Now. Or I call security and we let everyone know who really trashed this place. You really want Marsh's name tied to petty theft? Vance hesitated, then spat on the floor. You're both finished, he growled, before turning and stalking off with his men. Once they were gone, Garrett looked over the wreckage in silence. Kayla's hand found his. I'm so sorry, she whispered. You can't stay here. He shook his head, defeated. Then where do I go? The refugee housing, she said. It's not much, tiny rooms. Shared facilities, but I have space. She hesitated. You could stay with me, if you want. Garrett gave a weary smile. Are you asking me to move in with you? I know it's strange, Kayla said softly. We barely know each other, but you gave up everything for me. The least I can do is give you a place to sleep. I'd like that, he said quietly. Thank you. They gathered what little remained and made their way to Building 7. By the time they arrived, the station had entered its night cycle, corridors dim and silent. Kayla's quarters were small, barely enough space for a bed and a locker. She gestured toward the bunks. The bottom one's yours, she said with a faint smile. I'm heavier, so I take the reinforced top bunk. Standard beds aren't exactly built for Thessian density. Garrett laughed softly for the first time that day. Seems fair. And for the first time in years, as the lights dimmed, both of them slept, not peacefully, but with the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they weren't alone anymore. The beds reinforced for Thessian weight, Kayla said with a faint smile. Garrett chuckled. Good to know. And thank you for all of this. Stop thanking me, she replied softly. The lights dimmed as the station shifted to night cycle. Silence filled the small room, broken only by the hum of life support systems. In the darkness, Kayla's voice came quietly. What you did today, I'll never forget it. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure it wasn't for nothing. Garrett smiled in the dark. I know you will. Good night, Garrett. Good night, Kayla. Morning came with a knock at the door. Kayla opened it to find a middle-aged human woman standing there, glancing nervously down the corridor. I'm Sarah Chen, she said. I work in hydroponics. Kayla frowned slightly. Can we help you? Sarah hesitated. Can I come in, please? They stepped aside and she slipped in quickly, closing the door behind her. I heard what happened, Sarah said. What Marsh did to you both. It's not right. Thank you, Garrett said, but why are you here? Sarah reached into her coat and pulled out a credit chip. This is from me and from a dozen others. People who are tired of how refugees are treated on this station. People who think what you did took real courage. She pressed the chip into Garrett's hand. He glanced at it. 800 credits. I can't accept this. You can, Sarah said firmly, and you will. There are more of us here who care about doing the right thing than you realize. We're just afraid. We have families, jobs we can't risk. But you risked everything. Let us help. Garrett stared at her, speechless. Why? Kayla asked softly. Sarah's eyes softened. Because I came here as a refugee too 10 years ago from the Mars colonies. I know what it's like to be treated as less than human. And I know what it feels like when someone finally stands up for you. She moved toward the door. There's talk, she whispered. Marsh is planning something. Be careful, and get off this station as soon as you can. Then she was gone. After the door closed, Kayla turned to her tablet. I've been researching, she said. The New Horizons colony. They're looking for both atmospheric engineers and mechanical specialists. The job's been open for 6 months. The pay's fair and housing's included. Garrett leaned closer. How much are the transport tickets? $1,500 each, Kayla replied. With what Sarah gave us and our savings, we can afford it. We can leave. Start over somewhere that actually values what we can do. Together. Garrett smiled. Then let's do it. For the next 2 days, they worked in silence, selling what little they could, packing, planning. Hope crept into their voices again. They bought tickets for a transport leaving in 3 days. Freedom was finally within reach. But on their final evening, just as they finished sealing the last crate, the sound of heavy boots echoed down the hall. A knock, then a voice. Open up. Administrator Marsh wants to see you. Both of you. 2 security officers stood waiting. There was no point resisting. They followed them through the winding corridors until the passage opened into the central plaza. A crowd had gathered, workers, traders, administrators. All eyes turned as Marsh stepped forward onto a raised platform. There they are, Marsh declared, voice booming. The mechanic and his alien. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I've called this assembly, Marsh continued, because this community deserves to know the truth about these 2 individuals. Garrett's voice rang out. What truth? That I refused to join your bigotry? Marsh's eyes narrowed. That you chose an alien over your own kind. Look at her, she doesn't belong here. She contributes nothing, and yet you sacrificed everything for her? Why, what could possibly justify that choice? The plaza fell silent. Hundreds of eyes watched them. Garrett could feel Kayla trembling beside him. He took her hand, steadying her. Then he stepped forward. Garrett stepped forward, his voice cutting through the uneasy murmurs like a blade. You want to know why? He said. Fine, I'll tell you exactly why. The crowd fell silent. 6 years ago, Garrett began, I came to this station running from a mistake. A mistake that cost 2 people their lives. I was cleared by the courts, but I knew the truth. I should have been more careful. So I ran. I told myself I was starting over. But really I was just hiding. His voice grew stronger with every word. For 6 years I've watched this station become crueler. I've seen refugees mocked, harassed, treated like filth. And I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my problem. He gestured toward Kayla, standing beside him, trembling but proud. Then I saw her, cornered in the marketplace, surrounded by the kind of hate that's become normal here, and in that moment I realized something. Every time I stayed silent, every time I looked away, I was repeating the same mistake I made 6 years ago, choosing what was easy instead of what was right. Garrett's gaze swept across the crowd. You asked me what justifies my choice. Here's your answer. He nodded toward Kayla. Kayla Vorthus has a master's degree in xenobiology. She's published groundbreaking research on cross-species agriculture. She spent 5 years working on terraforming techniques that could make uninhabitable worlds bloom with life again. She survived a civil war that wiped out her homeworld. She crossed half the galaxy with nothing but her knowledge and her hope. Then his eyes locked on Marsh. And when she came here, this station treated her like garbage. Not because she lacked talent, not because she refused to contribute, but because she looks different, because her body doesn't fit your narrow definition of what's acceptable. He took a step closer to the platform. So yes, he said, his voice steady, I chose her. I chose to stand up instead of staying silent. I chose courage over cowardice, and I would make that same choice 1,000 times over. The plaza was silent. No one moved. Then from the back of the crowd, a single pair of hands began to clap in slow, deliberate. Sarah Chen stepped forward, applauding openly. One by one, others joined her, then more. The sound grew, echoing through the plaza. Marsh's face reddened. This is exactly the division I warned you about, he shouted. This is chaos. A firm, commanding voice cut through the noise. The only chaos here, it said, is that you've been allowed to bully people unchecked for far too long. The crowd parted as Captain Elena Rodriguez, commander of the independent freighter Stellar Wind, strode into view. Captain Rodriguez, Marsh stammered, caught off guard. This doesn't concern you. Oh, but it does, Rodriguez replied coolly. It concerns me when I see skilled, brave people being driven off a station because of one administrator's prejudice. I've been docked here for 3 days, Marsh, and I've heard the stories. She walked right up to the platform, her boots striking hard against the metal floor. I came tonight because I heard you were planning a public shaming. I thought I'd see it for myself. But instead I saw something that reminded me why I still believe humanity might be worth saving. She turned toward Garrett and Kayla, her tone softening. I understand you've bought tickets to the New Horizons colony, she said. I'd like to make you a different offer. Garrett frowned. An offer? Passage on my ship, Rodriguez said. We're leaving tomorrow morning. No charge. Then she smiled faintly. And when we reach New Horizons, I'll personally introduce you to the colony's administrator, who happens to be my sister. Captain, we couldn't possibly, Garrett began. You can, Rodriguez interrupted. And you will. Captain Rodriguez crossed her arms, studying Garrett and Kayla with a knowing smile. I've spent 30 years traveling the stars, she said. You start to recognize real talent after that long, and you two are exactly the kind of people frontier colonies need. Then she turned to Marsh, her tone sharpening like steel. As for you, Administrator, I'll be filing a formal complaint with the Colonial Authority. I'll make sure they know exactly what kind of hostile environment you've created here. I'll also be advising every captain I know to avoid Terminus Station until some serious reforms are made. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Marsh's confident expression faltered as whispers spread. His control, the thing he'd built his entire reputation on, was slipping away. This assembly is over, he barked. Everyone disperse. But no one left in a hurry. People lingered, their eyes no longer fearful, but awakened. As the crowd slowly thinned, Captain Rodriguez approached Garrett and Kayla. My ship leaves at 800 tomorrow, she said. Dock 7 Bay 3, don't be late. Garrett swallowed hard, emotion thick in his voice. Thank you for everything. Rodriguez smiled. Don't thank me. Just pay it forward. When you reach New Horizons, when you build your new life, and remember tonight, and when you see someone else being mistreated, stand up. That's all the payment I need. Sarah Chen appeared then, followed by several others. We just wanted to say goodbye, she said softly, and to thank you. What you did tonight, it showed us that standing up actually can make a difference. One by one, people approached. Some apologized for staying silent. Others offered words of support, small gifts, or simple handshakes. For the first time, the station's cold corridors felt warm. As Garrett and Kayla walked back to Building 7 for their final night, the hum of the station seemed different, quieter, almost peaceful. "I never thought standing up could cause a ripple like this," Kayla said. "Neither did I," Garrett replied. Kayla's voice trembled slightly. "I used to tell myself no man would ever want me, and not really. I said it so often it became like a mantra. But now I know. One man did." She glanced at him with a small, fragile smile, not in the romantic sense, but in a way that truly matters. "You wanted me to be safe, to be valued, to be seen as a person, not a problem. You made me want to become better." Garrett smiled faintly. "We made each other better." That night they stayed up late, talking about their plans, their dreams, the work they would do, and the kind of life they might build together. For the first time, the future didn't feel like a distant hope. It felt real. When morning came, they gathered what little they had and headed for Dock 7. Captain Rodriguez was already waiting near the ramp of her freighter. "Ready to start your new life?" she asked. Garrett looked at Kayla, who nodded with quiet determination. "Ready," he said. They stepped aboard the Stellar Wind and didn't look back. The journey took 8 days. In that time, Garrett and Kayla found an easy rhythm together, planning, analyzing data, preparing for what awaited them on the new world. When the freighter finally docked at New Horizons, they were met by Administrator Julia Rodriguez, Captain Elena's sister. "Elena's told me a lot about you two," Julia said warmly. "You're exactly what this colony's been looking for. Come, let me show you what we're dealing with." The tour confirmed everything they'd heard. Atmospheric processors operating at only 60% capacity, widespread mechanical failures, and a struggling ecosystem in desperate need of balance. The colony's main environmental hub buzzed, with alarms and flickering readouts. Systems were failing faster than the maintenance crews could repair them. Administrator Julia Rodriguez turned to Garrett and Kayla, her expression tight with concern. "Can you fix it?" Garrett glanced at Kayla, and she met his eyes with quiet determination. "We can't fix it overnight," she said. "But yes, we can fix it. It'll take time and resources. But between Garrett's mechanical engineering and my atmospheric expertise, we can build something sustainable." Julia nodded. "How long are we talking?" 6 months for the critical systems," Garrett said. "Maybe another year for full optimization, but you'll see progress within a few weeks." Julia smiled for the first time in days. "Then welcome to New Horizons. You're both hired." The months that followed became a blur of relentless work and steady transformation. Together, Garrett and Kayla redesigned the colony's environmental systems from the ground up, blending Thessian atmospheric science with human engineering principles. They created hybrid filtration networks, restructured pressure stabilization modules, and trained local crews to maintain them. But their greatest achievement wasn't just technical, it was cultural. Their partnership became a symbol. Humans and refugees working side by side, solving problems together. Word spread across nearby colonies. And soon other displaced species began to arrive, drawn by rumors of a place where ability mattered more than appearance. By the 9th month, New Horizons was thriving. Crops grew stronger, air purity improved, and the colony's once gray skies shimmered with a faint living blue. That evening, Garrett and Kayla stood together on the observation platform overlooking the lights below. "A city reborn. Do you ever think about Terminus?" Kayla asked softly. "Sometimes," Garrett said. "Mostly, I wonder if anything really changed." "Sarah sends me messages sometimes," Kayla replied. "She says things are slowly getting better. That what happened in that plaza made people start asking questions. It's not a revolution, but it's a start." They fell into a comfortable silence, watching the faint glimmer of distant stars. "Garrett," Kayla said after a moment, her voice almost hesitant. "That first night, class, when you walked me home, did you know? Did you have any idea what would happen?" He shook his head. "No, I just knew I couldn't walk past one more time. I couldn't be the person who looked away again." She smiled faintly. "I'm glad you didn't." "Me too." Kayla reached for his hand. "On Thessia, we have a saying, the strongest bonds are forged in the deepest waters. It means the relationships born in hardship are the ones that endure." I like that, Garrett said. Kayla hesitated, then looked up at him. We've been partners for almost a year now, in work and rebuilding our lives. I was thinking, maybe we could be partners in other ways too. Garrett turned to her, eyes searching hers. I used to tell myself no man would ever want me, Kayla whispered. That it was easier to believe I wasn't worth loving. But the truth is, one man did. Not despite who I am, but because of it, and I want him too. Garrett stepped closer, his voice soft. I love you, Kayla Vorthus. I don't even know when it happened. Maybe in that marketplace. Maybe in that cramped apartment. Maybe when we stood together in the plaza. But I love you. Kayla's eyes shimmered. I love you too, Garrett Reeves. Thank you for seeing me, when everyone else looked away, for making me brave enough to stand tall again. They stood together on the platform, watching the lights of the colony spread across the horizon. Two souls who had once lost everything, and somehow found something far greater. In the end, it wasn't about saving each other. It was about choosing to stand together when the world demanded they stand apart. It was about recognizing worth where others saw none, about courage in the face of cruelty, kindness in the face of hatred, and in a vast, indifferent galaxy, they proved something simple and profound. Sometimes one person's decision to do the right thing can change everything.